Behemoth, or as it's actually confoundingly called, Skydance's Behemoth, is an original title from the team that previously worked on Walking Dead, Saints, and Sinners. It's a branch of Skydance Media that is venturing into video game development, specifically virtual reality. Silly naming convention aside, this is a very serious attempt at making a God of War style game for VR. I won't sugarcoat this and say it's the greatest VR game ever made because it certainly has its warts, but Behemoth might be the best VR game this year and one whose highest highs will stick with me longer than its lowest lows. Players step into the shoes of Ren, a male or female voiced lead character who is on a quest to save their own life. Cursed with a black rot, Ren is told that if they topple the legendary behemoths, they'll be cured and so will the rest of the world as well. The premise is extraordinarily similar to Shadow of the Colossus, but this is not an open-world game like that. Behemoth is a linear action game experience with brutal weapon-based melee and ranged combat, incredible player-driven acrobatics, and mind-bending set pieces of impossibly immense scale. There are weapons aplenty to be found in Behemoth's different environments, but legendary weapons made of special metals are given to you one at a time throughout the campaign. First is a sword. Next is a bow, with endless arrows I might add. And last is a battle axe. Like Kratos or Thor, not only do these return to you if dropped or thrown, they can also be improved at forges throughout the game with bits of metal collected while exploring. I wouldn't call this an RPG experience, but the player does get some choice over how these weapons evolve. It wouldn't feel quite like God of War without super strength. Luckily, the rot that Ren is infested with just so happens to imbue them with just that. With just a quick cooldown, Ren can use this super strength again and again to do really crazy stuff like punch through walls, throw enemies into spikes or off ledges, mega throw your returning sword, or fire supersonic arrows at enemies and chop them in half. It's a power fantasy through and through. Also, a huge part of gameplay is the grappling hook. It too can be upgraded by finding mods either on the critical path of the game or hidden on the side. It's used to propel you up and around, rappel down into chasms, or grab items from far away. It has some amazing physics. Any rope you shoot, you can grab with your hands. If you attach it to something that can be pulled off, you can pull hand over hand as a meter fills up. This ends up being really important because the player needs to use that to rip off armor plates and access the weak points of the game's 4 gigantic bosses. These bosses are obviously the main focus of the game, but I just want people to understand they're not the entire game. Most of the game is exploring environments, trying to find the behemoths, and fighting smaller human enemies along the way. The pacing is really good, and ending each section of the game with a unique spectacle of a fight is really satisfying. Climbing on the side of these creatures as you attempt to kill them is like nothing I've ever experienced in gaming. I've obviously played Shadow of the Colossus and Dragon's Dogma before, but doing all of that with your own hands is another feat entirely. I do want to address that I did have some issues. While I love this game, it's very clear that not as much bug testing went into the latter third of the game. I saw textures and walls pop in and out, but that's almost nothing compared to detection issues with inventory and weapons. It ended up interfering with my ability to heal or accomplish difficult tasks during tough fights. The frustrating part is that it felt like bugs, and those bugs were just not there in the earlier content. I'm hoping these get patched because they really marred my experience of what would otherwise be a truly bombastic conclusion. That said, don't let that dissuade from trying the game. The issues in the latter act of Behemoth only hinder it from being potentially the best VR game I've ever played. But that's okay. It didn't stop it from being one of the best, and until Sony makes a God of War VR, there's nothing closer to that experience than this. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you want more VR content because I really love these polished single-player experiences like Horizon, Hubris, and Alien Rogue Incursion. Expect a review of that one coming up as well. If you're not already subscribed and don't mind hearing me ramble once a week or so, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. Catch you later.